Hey guys, it's been a good long while since I've posted a video on this channel, and right away I can tell that a lot of you guys are gonna unsubscribe because you've completely forgotten about this channel, which I don't hold that against you. Don't worry about it. But some of you guys I know that are curious and care about me, which I'm very honored by that. That's because you've been waiting for years to hear from me, and I appreciate that a whole lot. So I figured it's about time I did that at least one more time. So a couple things to say. I mean, I have so much to say, uh, and I've already tried recording this video a few times, and I'm trying to keep it relatively brief. But so to get the kind of elephant in the room out of the way, am I actually coming back to this channel and doing cosplay stuff again? I'm afraid the answer is no, and I know that's extremely disappointing to a lot of you because you've been waiting literally years for this. But I expected to, 4 or 5 years ago at this point, be interested in doing this stuff again, but I'm just not. I have no desire to do this whatsoever. There's nothing wrong with cosplay, and it had its purpose in my life, but I've moved on. My tastes and interests have changed and evolved, and I just have no desire to do it. You know, and again, I know that's disappointing, and I'm very sorry about that because I'm essentially going back on my word, and I've kept a lot of y'all waiting for 5 years, and you know and it's definitely regrettable, and I sincerely apologize for doing that. I know what it's like to be disappointed after waiting for a long time. Trust me, I do. So yeah, if that's enough for you, go ahead and click off. Then go right ahead. I don't hold that against you. But if you want to hear a little bit more about what I do intend to do, then stick around for a little longer. So I was living in Texas for the last 4 years. I've moved back to the West Coast to be with my family under my parents' roof 2 months ago, and I've been just getting a very deep rest since then because I've been burning the candle on both ends for the last 8 years, and just sacrificed so much, denied myself so much, and just did not enjoy life at all. Didn't allow myself to, that is. And I regret that because it kind of was for nothing. I feel like I wasted the last 8 years, to be honest with you. I know deep down that that's not true, but that's the feeling I've got right now, and I have to deal with that in a way that is actually healing and not distracting or numbing, right? But yeah, and as far as that business venture goes, it didn't work out. It wasn't because it was illegal or like a pyramid scheme or something. It wasn't. It was just a series of unfortunate events. Because one, I couldn't afford to do it anymore. I went through a lot of financial hardship in the last couple of years, to no fault of my own. It was just I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time multiple times in a row, and it was just it was a perfect storm, really, because of all these little things that complemented each other so well, and it just created an inescapable hell that I just couldn't get out of or do anything about. Which I'm not going to get into the details of, but that's it, yeah. And on top of that, my relationship with my past mentor has since fallen out. We're not on talking terms anymore. You know, and I heard some pretty disturbing things about him that I don't have any proof of. But judging by the effects that I've seen on the people who have been saying those things about him, I wouldn't be surprised if they are, but I'm not going to get into detail about that. And yeah, so and he's not involved in that anymore either, and neither are some other mentors I had. You know, so basically, I lost my base of support in that because my former mentors went their separate ways. They're doing other things now, and I personally went through some serious financial hardships and just couldn't afford to do it anymore. So it was nobody's fault, and it certainly was not, the business's fault or anything like that. It's just that I, perhaps mismanaged it to some extent, and there were a lot of just very unfortunate things that happened to me to where I just couldn't do it. I just literally, logistically, financially could not do it anymore, which is a real shame because it's a great business model, and the people I was working alongside and that I got to network and meet with were some of the most wonderful human beings I've ever met in my entire life. I've seen people get saved because of that. I've seen people radically transform their lives because of that. Even those that did not create any wealth, they grew as people, and they were so much better off for it. So it's a very, very, very good ethical thing that they were doing. It's just that my personal circumstances, the things I went through with my finances, with the mentors, just didn't work out, and I've accepted that. But yeah, so that's what's been going on in a nutshell. It was a hell of a lot more complicated than that, but yeah. So as far as future plans go, there are basically two things. One is writing. So I've been encouraged to start writing, and I've gained a lot of actually nothing but positive feedback about that so far. I've been writing articles on Substack, mostly Christian content, that is designed not to be pushy, so that people who are believers and not can both read it and enjoy it. So it's designed to be appealing to everybody. And it's almost like an open journal where I'm very brutally honest about what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling. And I talk about very heavy topics in there, and adult topics, and which could be triggering for some people, but it's there to set an example of what a brutally honest relationship with one's higher power really looks like. Because this is not about dogmatic, sacrilegious BS. Sprinklers going on. Frankly, I hate religion. Love Jesus, hate religion. Although currently I'm very upset with Jesus, which sounds silly, but if you knew what I went through, then you would understand. But yeah, it's like an open journal, basically. And I think you guys would be interested in that, for those of you that care about me. And I'll post a link in the pinned comment to my Substack page. I do ask that you do not subscribe unless you actually intend to read my content, because I don't want my numbers to be inflated. I want my subscribers to be real and genuine. That would be my personal preference. I know that as idealistic as I may be, obviously the world is not perfect, and but that's my request to you. Obviously, feel free to do whatever you like, but that's my request to you. So yeah, I should, and I have a current mentor now. His name's Keith. He's a missionary about to get his PhD. He's working on the last edits of his dissertation. Very, very wise guy. He's been my spiritual mentor for the past couple of years, and has helped me go through a lot of that crap I had to endure. He told me that I have the command, is the word he used, of the English language that's sufficient to potentially succeed as a writer. Coming from him, who's a writer himself, was quite reassuring. And the Substack articles have gained nothing but positive feedback so far, both from people, just random Substack users that chanced upon what I write, and my church family back in Texas, because I was very blessed to have met a lot of people at the church I was going to at that time. And yeah, everybody over there who's read that stuff has had nothing but good things to say about it, which has definitely been encouraging. I know I'm not a perfect writer. I've got a ways to go, and I'm sure I'm using the English language incorrectly sometimes, like with commas and punctuation and stuff like that. But yeah, that's been encouraging. So, and I enjoy it too, because it's a creative endeavor, and I know for a fact that one of my natural gifts is the ability to teach and to explain things. And so if I'm writing stuff that is explanatory, or discourse, prose, that kind of thing, it has a way of bridging the gap between things that are kind of cryptic, I guess you could say, difficult to understand, and explaining them to people in a way that they can understand and personally relate and connect with. So, which the idea of doing that long term professionally, is pretty appealing to me. I sure as hell don't want to be an employee the rest of my life. No freaking way am I doing that. Myself in the job world, it's like oil and water, man. We're just not compatible. Doesn't matter how hard I work, no matter how accountable I am, and no matter how much respect I show to my bosses. just doesn't work out, man. I've had 21 jobs in my life, and I'm only 26 years old, so it's not exactly normal. And there were some places where I was definitely out of line, but for the most part, those weren't really my fault, you know. But yeah, so doing the Substack thing, and I'm also working on 2 books right now. One is a memoir of the time I was in Texas, because it's a supernatural story of survival. A lot of miracles happened. You know, the fact that I have not declared bankruptcy, don't have an eviction on my record, and frankly have not killed myself is amazing to me. You know, the fact that I survived that, you know, and not, you know, no real disasters happened. I have no idea. I really couldn't tell you. So, but yeah, that memoir recounts the events that happened in pretty good detail. So, and the best way to know when that is ready is by subscribing to my Substack page, because that's where I'm kind of, you know, giving out bits of it. But yeah, I guess I'll announce it on this channel too when the time comes. So yeah, and the second book is a fictional novella. I don't want to get too much into detail about that, but it basically the protagonist is basically a projection of me in a fictional hypothetical world, and he goes through different circumstances as I do, but he goes through the same emotional strife as I do, and comes to the same conclusions as I do. And so, as my personal story of healing from the trauma of living in Texas has happened upon me, as I heal from that and overcome that and get the answers I want and get the resolutions I need to really just put that behind me for good. That's how I'm going to kind of get that closer to completion. So as I come to certain conclusions, so does the character. You know, so I'm at a point where I've written enough material in there to where I don't really know how to continue the story. So as my personal story continues, so too will the protagonist in the novella. So yeah, so that's the writing stuff. The other thing is it's very likely that I'll be moving to Japan in the very near future, probably this year. Japan has been on my heart since I was a little boy. Out of everything in my life, the one thing that's been consistent has been wanting to do something meaningful in Japan. I've got family over there, which is a huge advantage for someone for me, because it's not a place where you know, missionaries succeed very well. I'm not saying I'm going to be a missionary there per se, but yeah, it's a hard country to live in. You know, it may be rich, but it's still hard. You know, especially for young people. But I've got family there, and my grandfather is willing to help me out financially in ways that I found pretty shocking, to be honest with you. But he's willing to help me out, and everybody I've talked to about the idea of going there, including my parents, who were definitely concerned about everything else I have aspired towards, are very on board with this idea and very at peace with it, which is very unusual, you know. And a lot of the folks I met back in Texas and in that business venture, who are also supporting me by reading my articles, you know, are cheering me on to do that too. And in fact, I think a few of them have even said that they would be open to discussing financially supporting me there. I probably would have, I am still expected to cover my own, you know, food and transportation, stuff like that. And to do that, I will have to find work, most likely as a freelance or part-time or both English teacher, which doesn't really pay very well. But my uncle just happens to be a private tutor, and he speaks English, so I bet he'd have a lot of valuable insight from me too when it comes to attracting my own client base. Because the idea of being a private tutor or private English teacher, you know, as long as it's enough to survive, that sounds pretty nice, you know, because I can, you know, essentially make my own schedule and choose my own clients. And then, you know, hopefully at some point, right, you know, the writing thing will take off, and that will be my more long-term solution, you know, to create generational wealth, because I still want to do that. And I will always want to do that. I will never give up on that. So, yeah. Um, and so the only difficult part is, of course, getting over there. Now Keith said that he was willing to get his supporters, because he's a full-time missionary, he's financially independent, to help fundraise for the travel expenses and possibly more. So when it comes to getting things like a long-term visa and renewing my U.S. passport, I don't think it would be too difficult to cover those things. I am looking for work right now, but I haven't had any luck, which isn't a surprise because it's the post-COVID era and I'm a Gen Z, but with not the greatest employment history. But yeah, we'll see what happens though. But moving to Japan is definitely on the radar, and you know, if it's my higher power's will for me to get over there, then I'm sure he'll make a way to make that happen. So, and if he's willing to make a way for me to get over there, I'm sure he'll be willing to make a way for me to stay there too, for as long as I need to stay over there. And the reason I'm going over there, well, the initial reason anyway, for this season specifically, is because my relatives there have a family friend from Singapore who is starting a mental wellness center in Japan that she wants to use to do ministry stuff. And it has, in the business itself, I read the business plan and I didn't find anything in there that concerned me. I didn't see any red flags. I was completely, just peas and carrots, man. Has a huge emphasis on nature, and it's going to be in one of the more mountainous prefectures of the country, which sounds very appealing to me because I'm a mountain guy and I love nature. I'm an introvert too, so nature's my freaking happy place. Yeah, and so the idea is for me to go over there for a year, and while I'm there, take some college courses, not necessarily pursue a degree, but take some college courses just to kind of act as a catalyst for me to adapt to the Japanese day-to-day culture, and become fluent in the language. I'm already kind of decent at it. I could probably pass the N5 test if I really tried, but I've definitely got a ways to go. Anytime I watch any film or something like that in Japanese, I only understand about 10% of it, so definitely got a ways to go. And use that also as an opportunity to network, when it comes to, for ministry purposes, for English teaching purposes, for maybe business purposes. I don't know. Maybe somebody graduates, gets a job, and they get health insurance, and they can afford to see a mental wellness professional or a mental health professional. Hey, there you go, right there. And myself and this family friend have a lot in common, both when it comes to our personalities and our tastes and our purpose and even our talents and stuff like that. So we think it would be a good fit for us to work together. So there's a lot of promise, but I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, I know how promising things can get, and they still flop. I went through that so many times in Texas, and I'm just like, okay, well, if this is meant to be, cool. I'm gonna do my absolute due diligence and do an excellent job to make it work, but I'm not really getting my hopes up either, So, but yeah. Anyway, this is a bit of a lengthy video. I apologize for that, but yeah. So, I'll make sure to send you guys the link in the pinned comment to my Substack page if you want to check that out. And when the time comes for the memoir to be published, yeah, I'll make sure that you guys know, or at least those of you on Substack do. So thanks for tuning in. Again, I'm sorry that I am not coming back for cosplay stuff, at least not anytime soon. It's still possible, but it's just not on the radar right now. But yeah, I do appreciate your guys' patience, and I'm really sorry that it didn't really amount to anything. Trust me, I know what that's like. Once you read my memoir, you will understand. Because it was a very traumatic time being in Texas. But yeah, I got to do what I got to do to survive, and just use what's right in front of me, which isn't much, but I still gotta do it. So yeah. So be well, guys. Be blessed, and you know, don't worry too much about the state of the world. You know, the war is a long time. I'm not saying World War III per se, but I'm using the word war metaphorically. The war is long, and you know, only by surviving it are you going to be victorious. That's the mentality I'm taking. So, yeah. All right. Bye.